10 minutes after 6 on Morning Barbados. We're beginning with the celebration. Good news for CDEMA, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, celebrates 20 years. And there are two ladies who are here to discuss how they're going to commemorate that. Doug is quite familiar with one of them, so I want to let you go right on ahead and introduce him.
He talked about good news, and we started today by saying September, remember.
Yes.
And I was thinking of the hurricane season, and that brings CDEMA more into focus.
So good morning.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Liz Riley and Phyllis Barron. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
And congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
You seem quite thrilled about that.
Oh, yes, we are.
We're going to get to the cake and all the trappings a little later on this morning.
Sure.
Does this time of the year make you feel any more nervous?
Well, I wouldn't say nervous. It's the business that we're in. CDEMA's function is really to assist the region in the coordination of response to disasters. And in non-emergency times, we also work quite a bit with our 18 participating states in terms of assisting them in preparing themselves for handling emergencies when they arise. So I wouldn't say we're nervous, but it's a part of what we do, and it comes with the territory.
You know, there's a sense in Barbados and around the rest of the Caribbean that we are God's children, so nothing can happen to us. How do you deal with that kind of attitude?
Which is still pervasive in some places.
Yes, it is true. I think one of the things that we've tried to do quite a bit is really to highlight to persons, particularly in countries which have not had very frequent impacts in recent years. That tends to be a greater scenario. To some extent, we've had it here in Barbados. I think Hurricane Thomas and certainly the earthquake back in 2007 would have changed that perception quite a bit. What we do try to do is to be present in as many fora as possible to really give pictorial information and also financial information in terms of the kind of impact that we've had across the region, and to try to bring it home to various groups.
Why does it seem that we mobilize our forces only just at the start of the hurricane season? I mean, why can't we be more vigilant around the rest of the year?
Well, CDEMA works on an all hazards approach. It's not just about the hurricane season. We deal with a range of hazards in the region. Flooding is actually one of the most frequently occurring hazards, and that certainly, as we know, is not confined to the hurricane season. There's earthquakes, volcanic emergency, as we saw in Montserrat. I would say that probably behind the scenes quite a bit of work goes on in terms of what the national disaster offices do, but there tends to be a highlighting of it around the hurricane season, since that is really a very, as we say, a sexy hazard, as it were, and one of the most visible.
Well, now that we've established, I mean, hearing you talk, we now know why you're Deputy Director. So I need to move on to the Program Manager Corporate Services, Ms. Barron. Can we roll back a little bit? In the Caribbean, we've gotten used to having an agency to look after us when something goes wrong with the weather. But what was the thinking behind its establishment in the first place?
Well, basically, CDEMA was established to ensure that the entire region was protected by the hurricanes, because it started off with hurricanes. And then we have taken up the comprehensive disaster management approach, where we deal with all the hazards, not only hurricanes, as indicated by Ms. Riley, but we deal with earthquakes, thunderstorms, whatever the type of hazards. We deal with it, even with fires and spills from gas and this sort of things. We deal with those as well. So we basically manage the entire region and the protection of these hazards.
Big mandate, big budget, big costs. Who's paying for it?
Well, CDEMA, as we indicated earlier, have 18 participating states around the region. These are basically, most of them are CARICOM countries. We do recently brought on board Haiti and Suriname, and these participating states do contribute to they provide contributions to the work and operations of CDEMA. We also partner with a lot of the development partners who provide support for comprehensive disaster management in the region. So with those funds, we are able to manage.
So everybody pulls their pocket.
That's correct.
Good.
And presently, we are also looking at establishing what we call a technical service unit that will try to provide services to the public and the private sector out there in order to provide CDEMA with some self-funding for the work that we are mandated to do.
What sort of services would you be offering?
Well, basically, I will allow Ms. Riley to get into that aspect of it, since it's on the disaster side of it.
Well, in the past, we've actually got quite a few requests from private sector agencies and other concerned citizens in terms of work they'd like us to assist them with. That could look at, for example, preparing disaster plans for companies, or to undertake any kind of specialized training in that area. Also looking at business continuity planning and matters of, building redundancy in your ICT systems and that type of thing. So as we were discussing the movement from CDERA to CDEMA, that was back in 2009, we felt that it was very important to be able to generate some of the resources for the agency ourselves. And we're really looking forward to move into that new era in terms of our service delivery to the region.
How well does CDEMA work with the local emergency organizations? I mean, being the umbrella body, at what point do you get involved in a local operation? Or do you have to be invited, or do you just respond automatically?
Yes. Well, our involvement with countries is during emergency time, but also during non-emergency time. In non-emergency time, we work with countries actually on an ongoing basis. The national disaster offices in Barbados, it would be the Department of Emergency Management, would be our focal point, and there's an equivalent to that in each of the 18 participating states. In terms of emergency times, we have what we call different levels of emergency, so there are actually 3 levels. Level 1 is when there is an emergency in country, but the country is quite capable of handling itself. And in Barbados, for example, during Thomas, where we saw the national forces coming together and addressing the problems which arose. We have also situations which we call a level 2, where a country can largely manage, but they may require usually technical assistance from the outside, very specialized kind of assistance. A good example could be Dominica very recently with the collapse of that dam. And then we have the level 3 emergencies, which is where a country is completely overwhelmed. And of course, Hurricane Ivan would be an excellent example of that back in Grenada.
Was it a big watershed for you to change the R to M? From relief to management? Was that a big deal?
Not quite. I mean, it basically expanded what we were already doing. Because as CDEMA grew, we realized that we had to take up additional mandates, and it was clear with CARICOM that this is what was going to happen. So the mandate wasn't difficult for the agency itself to pick up, since they were already involved in doing it, really.
Okay. Now, we have established why we need CDEMA and how it has been working. And I'm personally much more comfortable knowing that we have a CDEMA in the region, because whatever goes on, there's a fallback, and someone somewhere along the line knows what to do. But let's get into the lighter side. How are you going to celebrate 20 years of
And are we going to be invited?
And is there cake? And is there cake? That's the most important question.
Yes, there will be a cake. We are celebrating 20 years. There's much to celebrate.
Yes, there
20 long years of CDEMA existence in the region. Well, probably not CDEMA, but disaster management, the institutionalization of disaster management in our region, 20 years. Because prior to CDEMA, there was CDERA. And CDEMA only came on board 2009. But the whole institutionalization of the disaster management occurred 20 years ago. And this is what we're celebrating. This is what we are glad about. We are happy to celebrate our work and achievements in the region. So what are we doing? Basically, we have a year of activities. It was launched at our last CDM conference. That's the Comprehensive Disaster Management Conference. It's an annual conference held by CDEMA. That was launched in Jamaica, since the conference was in Jamaica last year. This year, the conference will be in Trinidad and Tobago. So here we come, Trinidad and Tobago. So basically, what we're doing on the 4th, which is Sunday, we'll be celebrating at the Thankful Family Church. to give praise and thanks to the Lord for our presence in the region and taking us thus far. We'll also be having a press conference on the 5th of September at the Accra Beach Hotel, and that will be webcast on our website. You could look on to www.cdema.org, and we'll also be having what we call the Caribbean Staff Luncheon. So basically our staff are from our 18 participating states, and what we will do is to put on, the staff will be presenting the traditional cuisine from their country.
Okay, that sounds,
yes.
that sounds like our event. That sounds like our event.
That's where our cake, our 21st, our 20th birthday cake will be. So basically, and we're also doing a documentary and web photo gallery, which is being done in collaboration with Digiscape and Acute Vision, and we would really like to thank them for coming on board in this venture. What it will do, though, is to highlight our major events and achievements, the agencies, institutions, persons that have all worked in the disaster management field. So that's basically what we are doing for the week of September, the 4th to the 9th of September.
And we're bringing together people in the business from across the entire Caribbean to
That's
celebrate.
correct.
And there's cake.
And cake and jerk pork
And vegetables,
And garlic pork.
oil down, pepper pot. You almost forget the seriousness of the organization with this much celebration, but we are happy to have had you to help celebrate these 20 years, and hopefully in 20 years' time we'll be back to tell us how CDEMA has been growing and moving in leaps and bounds. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, ladies.
And please come back and let us know how it's going.
And wish Jeremy Cullumore all the best.
We've been talking to Phyllis Barron, the Program Manager of Computer Services at CDEMA.
And Elizabeth Riley, the Deputy Director. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks a lot for coming.
For having us.
Now it's time to tune in to some sweet singing, not necessarily in the choir, but the teen talent contestants are coming up. We'll be back on Morning Barbados.
Morning Barbados, good morning.